Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Christian Ethics Made Easy series, where the time needed to learn is reduced from months into minutes. And warning, parental guidance is advised. Cyborgs, superhumans, cloning, freezing of dead bodies in hopes of rejuvenating them in the future, organ harvesting, and gene splicing. These are just a few of the topics that we will be discussing in this episode of Christian Ethics Made Easy, Biomedics. An overview of this episode will be secular humanism, followed by Christianity, and then specific medical issues such as cloning, etc. Important ethical decisions in regards to biomedics are dominated by two worldviews, the worldview of secular humanism and the worldview of Christianity. Let us now provide a comparison of the two worldviews. Secular humanism believes God does not exist. Human beings were produced naturally. Human beings have control over life. The results are the most important thing, and those results should be the best quality of life. Now, the Christians believe that God does exist. Human beings are created from God. God has control over life. The most important things are not the results, and life is sacred. When it comes to biomedical issues, the main difference between secular humanism and Christianity is that secular humanism attempts to be God, and Christianity attempts to serve God. Secular humanists, in their attempts to be God, want to create human life, recreate human life, engineer life by genetic mutation, take control over nature, and, if necessary, use forced treatment. Christianity, in their attempts to serve God, want to improve human life by repairing life, maintaining life, and cooperating with nature, and treatment should only be voluntary. The secular humanism arguments attempting to justify their actions in biomedics are as follows. 1. Secular humanists have argued that human beings are obligated to create a superior race, such as GMO humans, creating new animals, and humans that are totally engineered to specifications. The response to this is, there is no obligation to create the superior race, and there is no real evidence that supports the view that humans were produced by purely naturalistic means. Science has failed to permanently improve even a fruit fly. Also, just because we can improve something does not mean that we should improve something. And lastly, how can you tell if changes in the human species are for the better without some ultimate standard to compare it to? Number 2, secular humanists have argued that everyone has a right over their own life, which comes to the free choice to take your own life, even take the life of your baby, that man is in ultimate control of life. The response to this is, God is in control of life. There is no one has the right to take an innocent life. Man did not create life, cannot create life, and cannot avoid death. So how can anyone claim that they have control over life? Number 3, secular humanists have argued that most important thing is the quality of life, and this principle is used to justify euthanasia and abortion. If a child is born and doesn't meet the genetic specifications, it should not be allowed to live, because it reduces the quality of life for the human race. The response to this is, who decides what the quality of life is? The patient or the doctor? The majority or the minority? If the majority, why? Also, who determines what quality is? There is no way to know if man's genetic tinkering will really improve the human race without a standard for comparison. Number 4, secular humanists have also argued that the results are the most important thing, and whatever actions are required to get the results are acceptable. The response to this is, the results need their own reasons to explain why they are good, and even if the results are highly desired by most people, that does not provide a good reason to conclude that the results are good. Most Germans in the early 1930s thought it was a good thing if the Jewish people were exterminated, and today many people think it would be a good thing if AIDS virus was exterminated. 3 additional points made by the Christians in opposition to the secular humanist biomedical ethic are as follows. 1. The old saying that 2 wrongs do not make a right. Abortion is wrong, and also experimenting with aborted babies is also wrong. The false assumption that because it can be done, that it should be done. Just because something is possible doesn't mean that it is morally permissible. Number 3, also, what is already being done does not mean that it should be done. Just like because people are already aborting babies does not mean that they should be. Rape is already occurring, that doesn't mean that it should be, etc. Points made by the Christians to justify their decisions on biomedics are as follows. 1. Love is at the heart of the Christian ethic. This love is our responsibility to God, because it comes from God, and it is directed to others. It is this love for God that causes the Christians to look to His Word, the Bible, for guidance in all biomedical ethics. Number 2. Human life is sacred and calls for respect and dignity. Man is made in the image of God. No matter how disfigured or unwanted by others, life deserves to be treated as sacred as the sacred thing that it is. Life is so sacred, it is wrong to even curse it. Man is even to be buried with respect. Number 3. The lifespan of man on earth is limited. Man is mortal. After death is a judgment. The humanistic attempts to avoid death are ineffective and misdirected. Number 4. God has ultimate control over everything. God gives life, and God takes away. We are not our own, but His. From dust we come, and dust we shall return. Humans have no right to seek control over human life. Here are some basic principles from the Christian ethic that may help you decide about things that may not be covered in this video. That is, 1. As Christians, every attempt should be made to help prevent the unnatural death of innocent people. However, there is no moral obligation to try and avoid natural death by providing unnatural means. Taking an innocent life is always wrong, but sometimes it may be justified to allow death to occur naturally, but not by withholding natural means such as water, food, and oxygen. The patient should be notified about the consequences of any medication or operation and must give consent freely and uncoerced. A cure that is forced upon a person is always immoral, no matter how beneficial it may be. Forced abortion, forced sterilization, etc. is always immoral. Informed consent is a necessary foundation for all bioethical decisions. Answers to specific bioethical issues are coming up. The answer to the questions will have to do whether or not people are trying to be God or trying to serve God, maintaining life or creating life. Okay, number 1, human cloning, the creation of a genetically identical copy of a human. The answer is no. This would be an attempt to create life, which would be an attempt to be God rather than to serve God. If it were done, it would generate psychological and social problems. It would bypass God's means of reproduction, and it would be an attempt at immortality. Number 2, cryonics, the deep freezing of the human body in hopes of bringing it back to life in the future. The short answer to this is no. God has appointed death. We are not to be resurrected in the same body, but rather in a spiritual body that God will provide. Number 3, GMO organisms, genetically modified, the creating of new types of animals, insects, viruses, and even humans, by swapping genes. The short answer to this is no. That would be playing God and not serving God. Also, there's a great risk, the possibility of deadly organisms, new diseases, and the disruption of the harmonious balance in the micro world, and probably many social and legal problems. The results do not justify the actions. Man is made in God's image, and mixing man with animal is immoral. Number 4, in vitro fertilization, or test tube babies, is where you take the sperm and the egg from the man and the woman and join them together in a petri dish, and then later transplant into the mother's womb. The short answer to this is maybe in the future, but as of right now, many embryos are sacrificed in order to get one that will survive. The results do not justify the actions. Number 5, organ harvesting, the surgical procedure to remove body parts for recycling. The answer to this is, it makes sense only if it is a one-time donor's gift who is informed and gives full consent freely. If it's after death, the death should not be hastened. Growing embryos or keeping bodies alive artificially, for the purpose of harvesting organs is a deprivation of dignity and respect for human beings. Surrogacy, which is an agreement whereby a woman carries a pregnancy for another person who will later become the child's parent. The answer to this is, adoption is better due to the fact that there are serious social, legal, and psychological problems to be considered, such as the degradation of motherhood, womb for hire, and emotional attachment between the mother and the child. Perhaps God wants us to adopt or care for children in other ways. Number 7, artificial insemination is the deliberate insertion of sperm into the woman for the purpose of achieving a pregnancy. The answer to this is, there are no moral reasons against artificial insemination within marriage. However, the action taken to extract the seed should be done without lustful thoughts towards someone who is not the spouse. Also, children should be raised by a mother and a father. Number 8, gender detection and selection of the baby. That is, in the mother's womb. The answer to this is, gender detection, yes, but gender selection, no. Gender detection sometimes leads to gender selection, which is abortion, which is murder of an innocent human, which is morally unacceptable. Number 9, genetic surgery. The surgery of the genes by removing harmful mutations in exchange with healthy DNA. The answer to this is, if the surgery is for correcting life and not creating life, then it is morally permissible. However, genetic surgery to change a person's gender is morally wrong. Whatever our psychological or sociological tendencies are, we should conform them into the way God made us. And number 10, organ transplanting is the removing of a body part and replacing it with a body part from another human being. The answer to this is, yes, if it is donated uncoerced and voluntarily. It is in accordance with the principle of love. Now, some opponents of the Christian biomedical ethic have raised objections, saying it holds back scientific progress. The response to this is, the objection falsely assumes that scientific inventions are progress, rather than just changes. Science deals with what is, not what ought to be. Another objection raised is that it lacks compassion for the suffering people. The response to this is, the results do not provide good reasons for the actions taken to get the results. Only good actions should be used to get good results. Well, thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to tune in to our other videos on Christian Ethics Made Easy, as well as other topics. Your questions and suggestions are welcomed. Please post them in the comments below.